Imagine driving home on a quiet, moonlit night in 1961, when a strange light in the sky seems to follow your car. What begins as curiosity reportedly turns into fear as the object appears to descend, and hours of life allegedly vanish without explanation. This is the story told by Betty and Barney Hill, an American couple whose claimed encounter in the White Mountains of New Hampshire became the first widely publicized alleged alien abduction case in history. On that night, Betty and Barney Hill encountered a mysterious craft in the sky. They experienced missing time, underwent invasive medical examinations, and came face to face with the iconic gray aliens that would later dominate the UFO lore. Betty Hill, born in 1919, was a dedicated social worker with a college education, rare for women at the time. Barney Hill, born in 1922, was a World War II veteran and postal worker. They married in 1960, forming one of the few interracial couples in America during an era of intense racial segregation and prejudice. Active in civil rights and members of the NAACP, the Hills were involved in the Unitarian Church and deeply engaged with their community. Friends, colleagues, and neighbors consistently described them as intelligent, grounded, respectable, and reliable people oriented toward their community, no reputation for seeking attention or exaggeration. They weren't fame seekers, they presented themselves as everyday people, returning from a delayed honeymoon in Canada when their lives changed forever in ways no one could have predicted. In September 1961, the Hills drove their 1957 Chevy Bel Air south through rural New Hampshire after visiting Niagara Falls and Montreal. Betty was the first to notice a strange light above the mountains. At first she thought it might be a falling star, but its movement seemed erratic and its brightness appeared to grow as it approached. They pulled over multiple times, observing the object through binoculars. It appeared structured, with rows of windows and colorful lights, an arrangement unlike any natural appearance or conventional aircraft they had seen. Barney, initially skeptical, took the binoculars and later described witnessing something that filled him with terror. Humanoid figures behind the windows, seemingly watching them. One of the figures communicated telepathically, urging them to remain calm. Terrified, Barney screamed, "They are going to capture us," and ran back to the car. As they sped away, the craft floated closer, emitting strange peeping sounds that seemed to vibrate to the vehicle. Both suddenly felt an overwhelming drowsiness, a sensation later interpreted in the UFO books as the onset of missing time. The next clear memory came 35 miles down the road near Concord. With no recollection of the drive in between, they arrived home in Portsmouth at dawn, 2 hours later than expected. They reported physical traces. Shiny circles on the trunk of the car, a compass spinning wildly near them, torn clothing, scuffed shoes, stopped watches, and pink powder on Betty's dress. Both described experiencing anxiety, recurring nightmares, and unexplained health issues in the weeks that followed. Seeking answers, the Hills reported their sightings to Peace Air Force Base, where it was investigated as part of Project Blue Book, a US Air Force program that examined UFO sightings to determine if they posed a threat or could be explained by ordinary events. As Betty's nightmare intensified, often involving themes of being captured and examined, they turned to psychiatric help. In 1964, they consulted Dr. Benjamin Simon, a Boston psychiatrist and hypnosis expert, who had previously treated trauma victims from World War II. Over several months, separate hypnosis sessions revealed consistent stories across both Hills, introducing details that would come to define the modern kidnapping narrative. Under hypnosis, Betty Hill described what she believed was a detailed interaction with beings aboard a craft, focusing primarily on her own experience after she and Barney were separated for examinations. After being led up a ramp into a disc-shaped craft, she was taken into a room where several short humanoids described as having grayish skin, large, slanted or wraparound eyes, small noses and mouths, no visible ears and bald heads, prepared to examine her. She was placed on a table, undressed and subjected to a series of unfamiliar procedures. The being scraped her skin for samples, clipped her nails, examined her ears, nose, throat and eyes, including lighting shine into them, and took hair samples. They seem particularly curious about differences between her and Barney, such as his removable dentures, which puzzled them during his separate examination. The most painful part came when one being, referred to as the Examiner, inserted a long needle-like instrument into her navel. She cried out in agony, describing it as unlike any earthly procedure. The being she calls the leader, whom she described as slightly taller and more authoritative, approached quickly, waved his hands over her face or eyes, and the pain instantly vanished. He explained telepathically, or in a form she perceived as broken English, that this was to stop the pain and reassured her that the test was necessary. Throughout the examination, Betty described herself as remaining relatively calm and communicative compared to Barney, who kept his eyes closed in terror. She asked numerous questions, joked lightly, and even explained human concepts like aging, time measurement, food consumption, and even dentistry to the curious beings. They responded telepathically, conveying a sense of friendliness, scientific curiosity, and mild amusement at her inquiries, though the procedures themselves felt cold, clinical, and invasive. After her examination concluded, while waiting for Barney's to finish, she said she was left alone with the leader in the examination room. She noticed what appeared to be a book or thick volume on a shelf or wall, covered in strange symbols or writings that resembled hieroglyphs or unfamiliar script. Curious, she asked about it, and the leader allowed her to flip through its pages, which she described as containing rows of odd markings. She expressed a strong desire to take the book home as proof of the encounter, but the leader later indicated, after seemingly consulting telepathically with the others, that she could not keep it, explaining that they intended to erase her memory of the entire event to prevent distress. Betty then asked the leader where they were from. He activated a three-dimensional holographic-like display and a map covered with dots, stars of various sizes, connected by lines. Some lines were heavy and solid, which he explained represented frequently traveled trade routes or expeditions. Others were thinner or dotted, indicating occasional trips. There were also isolated dots with no lines at all. Betty described it as a long or curved map, not flag like earthly charts, with patterns that suggest depth, perspective, and a three-dimensional structure. She pointed to a prominent pair of large connected stars, a binary system, and asked if that was their home. The leader confirmed something along those lines, but remained vague and did not specify exactly. When Betty asked for more details, tried to locate what she thought might be Earth, or inquired where humans fit into the map, the leader laughed or responded with gentle humor, "Where are you on the map?" Or, "If you don't know where you are, there wouldn't be any point in telling you where I'm from." He implied that humans lacked sufficient knowledge of the universe to fully comprehend their origin. Betty tried hard to memorize the map, noting clusters of stars, scattered background dots, and the overall network of routes. The leader seemed amused by her persistent questions about space travel, how their craft worked, and the nature of their journeys, but he remained evasive about providing concrete answers. Once Barney's examination concluded, which included similar skin and hair sampling plus a sperm collection procedure that distressed him greatly, the couple was briefly reunited. Betty sensed a mild discussion or a disagreement among the beings, possibly a telepathic debate about whether to allow her to retain any memory or keep the book as proof. Ultimately, they decided to induce amnesia. The leader reassured her telepathically that they would not remember the encounter, as it would only cause unnecessary worry. The beings then calmly escorted them down the ramp back to their car, where Betty felt a wave of serenity or drowsiness overtake them both. She later recalled feeling watched as they drove away, with the craft hovering nearby for a short time before departing into the night sky. Post-hypnosis under Dr. Simon's guidance, Betty carefully recreated from memory what she believed was the star map, a pattern of about a dozen prominent stars with connecting lines. Dr. Simon ultimately viewed the kidnapping memories as likely fantasy, possibly stemming from Betty's vivid dreams, influencing Barney, while acknowledging the couple's apparent real distress. In 1968, amateur astronomer Marjorie Fish read about Betty Hill's recalled star map and attempted to match it to real stars using a 3D model based on the 1969 Gliese catalog. She claimed the pattern best fit when viewed from the binary system Zeta Reticuli, about 39 light-years away. Her work sparked debate in astronomy magazines. Supporters argued the alignment was statistically unlikely by chance. Critics, including Carl Sagan, countered that the apparent correspondence could be mere coincidence, arguing that when a small number of stars are selectively connected and viewed from many possible perspectives, some configuration will tend to resemble known stellar groupings by chance alone. They emphasize that human pattern recognition is prone to confirmation bias, especially when the observer already has a target system in mind. The skepticism was reinforced by data from the European Space Agency's Hipparcos satellite, which provided far more accurate stellar distant measurement in the 1990s. The revised data showed that several stars, including in the proposed map, were significantly farther away than the previously assumed, disrupting the spatial relationships required for the Zeta Reticuli alignment. As a result, Marjorie Fish publicly acknowledged that the improved measurements undermined her model and rendered the correlation unlikely, even though the Zeta Reticular interpretation continued to circulate within the UFO communities. Researchers have noted similarities between the details in the Hill's hypnotically recovered memories and episodes of The Outer Limits aired in early 1964, shortly before the sessions, particularly the Bellero Shield, which featured an alien with wraparound eyes. Other episodes and a Twilight Zone story echoed kidnapping and humanoid themes. While Betty denied watching these programs, some suggest cultural media may have subtly influenced what emerged under hypnosis, blending perception and imagination in ways that remain debated. Some skeptics think the Hill may have taken a light on Cannon Mountain for a UFO, and being tired from a long drive could have made the mistake more likely. Barney Hill died in 1969, possibly from stress-related complications. Betty lived until 2004, becoming a prominent UFO advocate. What if anything truly happened to Betty and Barney Hill that night? Did they encounter aliens? Was it a psychological experience shaped by stress, cultural influences, and hypnosis? Or something else entirely? No conclusive evidence settles the question, leaving it an enduring mystery open to interpretation. Decades later, the same star system, Zeta Reticuli, reappeared in Bob Lazar's unverified claims about alleged alien craft at Area 51, adding another layer to its symbolic role in the UFO narratives. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to check out my other video about people mysteriously disappearing in national parks. These strange cases go back hundreds of years and they are still happening today. One man has been documenting these disappearances with real evidence and is continuing his research. If you like this video, I would love it if you left a comment and hit the like button. Bye bye.